I was 60 years old when my heart gave out on the operating table. The man who brought me back wasn't just a surgeon. He was divorced, broken, and raising 2 kids who thought no woman could ever replace their mother. But when his hands touched my chest and restarted my heart, something else began beating too. This is how I fell in love while dying. If you believe love has no age limit, hit that like button, subscribe to my 10 p.m. stories, share this with someone who needs hope, and tell me in the comments if you've ever gotten a second chance at happiness. My name is Tina, and this is my confession. They say your life flashes before your eyes when you're dying. Mine didn't. Instead, I saw all the years I'd wasted believing I was too old, too tired, too damaged for love. I was 59 when the chest pain started. 60 when I met Dr. Jack Reynolds in the cardiac unit, his gray hair catching the fluorescent lights as he explained how my heart was failing. What I didn't know then was that he was failing too. A divorced father of 2, carrying guilt like a stone in his chest. His daughter was 30, his son 28, both brilliant and protective and convinced their father had suffered enough. This isn't a story about perfect people. It's about broken hearts learning to beat together. And it starts with the one truth I never told Jack until our wedding night. He wasn't my first love. He was my second chance. The first time I died was in room 407 of Mercy General Hospital. I remember the ceiling tiles. 42 of them, water-stained and yellow. I'd counted them 3 times during the night because the pain in my chest wouldn't let me sleep. Not sharp pain. Heavy pain. Like someone had placed a boulder on my ribs and forgotten about it. Mrs. Brennan? The nurse's voice was distant. Your cardiologist is here. That's when he walked in. Dr. Jack Reynolds. 62 years old, but moving like a man who'd learned to carry weight gracefully. Gray hair swept back from a face that had seen too many emergency rooms, too many families crying in waiting areas. His white coat was pressed but worn at the edges. His hands were steady. Your EKG shows severe arrhythmia, he said, pulling up a chair beside my bed. Not standing over me, sitting with me. Your heart's electrical system is misfiring. We need to operate within 48 hours, or you're looking at sudden cardiac arrest. I'd lived 60 years. I raised 3 children alone after my husband left. Worked double shifts as a school secretary to keep food on the table. Survived breast cancer at 45. Built a life from nothing but stubbornness and prayer. And now my heart was quitting. What are my chances? I asked. Jack met my eyes. I really met them. 85% success rate. But Tina, I need you to understand something. This surgery will change you. Your heart will beat differently. You'll feel different. Some patients say they become different people. I didn't believe him then. I should have. 3 days later, I flatlined on his operating table, and when I came back, everything I thought I knew about love had changed forever. I woke up in the ICU with tubes in my throat and Jack's face above mine. Welcome back, he whispered. You were gone for 90 seconds. 90 seconds. A minute and a half of nothing. No white light. No dead relatives. Just absence. And then his voice pulling me back through the dark. They removed the breathing tube 6 hours later. My chest felt like it had been cracked open and welded shut, which technically it had. But what hurt more was the loneliness. My children lived in different states. My friends had their own lives. My hospital room held only flowers from my old workplace and a card from my sister. Jack came to check on me every morning before his rounds. Not just doctor visits. Real conversations. How's the pain? Manageable. How's the fear? That question stopped me cold. Because doctors don't usually ask about fear. They ask about symptoms, medications, bowel movements. Not the terror that wakes you at 3 a.m. when you remember your heart stopped beating. I'm afraid of being alone, I admitted. I've been alone for so long, Jack. 23 years. Since my divorce. And I thought I was fine with it. But dying alone in that operating room. My voice cracked. That was the worst part. Not the pain. The loneliness. He pulled his chair closer. I know that fear. My divorce was 8 years ago, and I still wake up, reaching for someone who isn't there. Your kids? I asked because I'd seen them visiting during his rounds. A stunning young woman, with her mother's eyes, and a tall young man with Jack's careful way of moving. Sarah's 30. Marcus is 28. They're my entire world. They must hate that their father's alone. Jack smiled sadly. They've tried setting me up. It never works. Because I'm not looking for just anyone. Recovery was supposed to take 6 weeks. I stayed in the hospital for 9 days, then went home to my empty apartment with instructions to rest, take 17 different pills, and avoid stress. Avoiding stress while living alone after heart surgery is impossible. I couldn't lift anything over 5 pounds. Couldn't reach the top shelves. Couldn't drive for 3 weeks. Couldn't sleep lying flat because my incision screamed whenever I tried. So I spent my nights propped on pillows, watching infomercials and crying quietly because I was 60 years old and completely helpless. Dr. Jack called on day 4. How are you managing? He asked. I've fine, Elid. Tina, I can hear you breathing wrong. Your chest is tight. Have you been doing your breathing exercises? I hadn't. Because doing them alone in my apartment felt pathetic. Like admitting I was barely surviving. I'm coming over, he said. You can't, you're my doctor. I'm off shift in 20 minutes. Text me your address. He arrived with groceries, a blood pressure cuff, and a firm expression that reminded me of my father. He checked my vitals, reorganized my medications with labels and a schedule, and made me soup while explaining proper breathing techniques. You shouldn't be alone, he said finally. Do you have family nearby? My sister's in Montana. My kids have their own lives. What about friends? I looked at him. This man who barely knew me. This surgeon who'd held my heart in his hands and put it back together. I have a neighbor who checks on me. That's not enough. Then what do you suggest, Dr. Reynolds? Let me check on you every other day until you're stronger. As your physician, I'm concerned about post-operative depression and isolation. As my physician, but the way he looked at me wasn't clinical at all. Jack came every other day for 3 weeks. He'd arrive after his hospital shift, still wearing scrubs sometimes, carrying takeout or groceries, or just his medical bag. He'd check my blood pressure, listen to my heart, examine my incision. Then he'd stay for dinner. We talked about everything. His marriage, my divorce, how his ex-wife had left him for her personal trainer, cliché but devastating, how my husband had walked out when our youngest was 12, claiming he'd never wanted this life. Did you love him? Jack asked one evening, sitting across from me at my small kitchen table. I thought carefully. I loved who I thought he was. The man who proposed at 23 and promised forever. But that man didn't exist. The real him was restless and selfish and cruel in small ways that added up. Sarah's mother was like that, Jack admitted. Small cruelties. Forgetting my birthday. Criticizing how I spoke to patients. Making me feel like I was never quite enough. I stayed for the kids. Then one day I realized I was teaching them that loveless marriage was normal. How did they handle the divorce? His face tightened. Sarah was 22. She blamed me. Said I gave up too easily. Marcus understood, but he was quieter. He's always been the one who absorbs everyone else's pain. They visit you a lot, I said, because I'd seen him on the phone with them during his visits. They worry. Especially Sarah. She thinks I'm lonely. Are you? Jack looked at me with those steady surgeon's eyes. I was. Before. The air in my small kitchen shifted. We were 62 and 60 years old, sitting at a cheap IKEA table eating Thai takeout, and something was happening that terrified me, because I'd already lost one man, survived one broken heart. I wasn't sure I could survive another. I told Jack about Michael on a Tuesday night in late autumn, 6 weeks post-surgery. My incision had healed to a pink scar. My heart was beating steadily. Jack had stopped coming as my doctor and started coming as something else. Something neither of us had named yet. I need to tell you about my first love, I said, setting down my wine glass. Before this goes any further. Jack went very still. Does it go any further? You know what I mean. He did. Because the last 3 visits, he'd stayed until midnight. Because he'd started texting me. Good morning. Because the way he looked at me had nothing to do with cardiac health and everything to do with something deeper. Tell me, he said quietly. His name was Michael. I met him in high school. He was beautiful. Dark curly hair, green eyes. The kind of smile that made you forget your own name. He told me I was the most stunning girl he'd ever seen. And I believed him. Jack's expression didn't change, but his hand found mine across the table. We got married at 22. We had our first baby at 23. I thought we'd be together. Forever. He promised me forever. Every morning, every night, forever. What happened? He left when I was 37. Walked out with a note on the kitchen counter. Said he'd met someone younger at his office. Someone who didn't have stretch marks or exhaustion or 3 kids demanding attention. Someone who made him feel alive again. My voice cracked. I haven't let anyone close since then, Jack. 23 years of walls. Because if Michael, who promised forever, could leave, anyone could. Jack squeezed my hand. Not anyone. Not everyone. How do I know that? You don't. That's the terrifying part. Love is always at risk. Jack introduced me to his children on a Sunday afternoon in November. I'd been terrified for 3 days straight. Couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. 60 years old and feeling like a teenager meeting her boyfriend's parents. They're just protective, Jack had said on the phone. They've seen me hurt. They don't want it to happen again. Sarah arrived first. 30 years old, corporate lawyer, wearing a navy dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent. She had her father's careful eyes and her mother's sharp edges. So you're Tina, she said, shaking my hand. Firm grip. Assessing gaze. I am. You must be Sarah. Your father talks about you constantly. Does he? Not a question. A statement. She sat on Jack's couch like she was cross-examining a witness. How did you meet my father? He saved my life during open-heart surgery. And now you're dating? Sarah, Jack started. It's fine, I said, meeting her eyes. Yes. We're dating. I know it seems fast. I know you're worried about him. But I'm not looking to hurt your father. I'm 60 years old. I've heard enough to know how much damage careless people cause. Something shifted in Sarah's face. How long were you married? 15 years. He left for someone younger. My mother left for her personal trainer. We looked at each other. 2 women who'd watched people they loved choose someone else. I'm not trying to replace your mother, I said quietly. I know I can't. I'm just trying to be happy. And maybe help your father be happy too. Marcus arrived then, tall and quiet, carrying coffee for everyone. He hugged his father, nodded to me, and settled into a chair. So, he said, you're the woman who's got Dad smiling again. The Sunday dinners became a tradition. Every week, Jack's apartment. Sarah brings wine. Marcus cooking. He'd been a chef before. Law school and still loved feeding people. Me bringing dessert and slowly, carefully building something that felt like family. Sarah thawed. Not quickly, but week by week, I'd catch her laughing at my stories about teaching middle schoolers for 30 years. Asking my advice about a difficult colleague. Texting me during the week to share a meme or a news article. Marcus was easier. Gentle and observant. The kind of man who noticed when someone needed a refill or a kind word. He'd asked me about my own children one evening, and I'd told him about my daughter in Seattle, my twin sons in Chicago, how they'd struggled when their father left, how they'd had to grow up too fast. Do they know about Dad? Marcus asked. I told them last week. My daughter cried. Said she was happy I found someone. What about your sons? Protective. Like you too. They want to meet Jack. Do you want that? Sarah asked, leaning forward. Our family meeting? I looked at Jack, who was watching me with that careful surgeon's concentration. I think I do. Is That crazy? It's terrifying, Jack said. And necessary. Because Tina, I need to tell you something. The room went quiet. I'm falling in love with you. I've been fighting it because you're my patient and I'm supposed to be professional. But I can't anymore. You're the first person in 8 years who's made me believe I deserve a second chance. Sarah and Marcus exchanged glances. Not upset. Knowing. We can tell, Marcus said, smiling. You're different when she's around, Dad. Lighter. Sarah nodded. We approve. For what it's worth. Jack proposed on a Tuesday night in February. 6 months after my surgery. 7 months since we'd met. We were at my apartment cooking dinner together when he suddenly turned off the stove and took my hands. I bought this 3 weeks ago, he said, pulling a small box from his pocket. I've been carrying it around like an idiot, waiting for the perfect moment. But there's no perfect moment, is there? There's just this. Us. Right now. Inside was a simple gold band with a small diamond. Not flashy. Not trying to compete with anyone's past. Just honest. Tina, I know we're older. I know people will say we're rushing. But I've lived 62 years and I've learned that life is too short to waste time pretending we don't know what we want. I want you. Every morning. Every night. Every Tuesday dinner and Sunday with the kids. I want to wake up next to you when we're 70 and 80 and beyond. My hands were shaking. Jack, I know you're scared. I am too. But I'd rather be scared with you than safe alone. I thought about Michael. How he'd promised forever and delivered 15 years. How I'd spent 2 decades believing I was unworthy of real love. How I'd built walls so high I'd forgotten what vulnerability felt like. Then I looked at Jack. This man who'd literally held my heart. Who'd seen me at my weakest. And stayed. Who'd introduced me to his children and made space for me in his carefully constructed life. Yes, I whispered. Yes, but I need to tell you something first. Anything. I'm afraid I'm going to mess this up. That I'm too damaged. That one day you'll wake up and realize you made a mistake. Jack pulled me close. Then we'll be afraid together. We told the kids the next Sunday. Sarah cried. Actually, I cried. This sharp, brilliant lawyer who cross-examined corporate criminals for a living sat at her father's dining table with tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry, she kept saying. I don't know why I'm crying. Because you're happy, Marcus said, hugging her. It's okay to be happy, Sarah. She looked at me. Are you sure about this? About him? I'm terrified, I admitted. But yes, I'm sure. Good. Because if you hurt him, I will destroy you professionally and personally. Sarah. Jack said. No, she's right, I said. If I hurt him, I'd deserve it. But I'm not planning to. Your father is, he's the kindest man I've ever known. He makes me believe I deserve good things. Marcus raised his glass. To Dad and Tina. To second chances and Sunday dinners and families that choose each other. We drank. Celebrated. Planned a small wedding. Just family and close friends. Nothing elaborate. We were too old for pageantry, Jack said. We just wanted to be married. My own children flew in the following week. My daughter Emma, 34, met Jack with suspicion in her eyes. My twin sons David and Nathan, both 32, flanking her like bodyguards. You're the heart surgeon, Emma said. I am. And you love our mother? Ido. Very much. David crossed his arms. Our father said he loved her too. Then he left her for a 25-year-old receptionist and never looked back. Jack didn't flinch. I can't change your father's choices. I can only promise you mine. And I choose your mother. Every day. For the rest of my life. Nathan studied him. What if she gets sick again? Then I take care of her. That's what love is. The wedding was in March, in Jack's backyard under cherry blossom trees. 40 people. Sarah and Marcus standing with Jack. Emma, David, and Nathan standing with me. A simple ceremony led by a retired judge who'd been Jack's mentor in medical school. I wore a cream dress that Emma had helped me pick out. Not white. I'd done white once. before, and this felt different. This felt earned. Jack wore a gray suit that matched his hair. When I walked down the makeshift aisle, Marcus's arm steadying me, Jack's eyes filled with tears. "You're stunning," he whispered when I reached him. "Still the most beautiful woman I've ever seen." The judge spoke about love. About how it's braver the second time. How we bring our scars and our history and our fear, and we choose to trust anyway. "Do you, Jack Reynolds, take Tina Brennan to be your lawfully wedded wife?" "Ido. Absolutely. Without question." "Do you, Tina Brennan, take Jack Reynolds to be your lawfully wedded husband?" I looked at this man. This gentle, steady, broken and healed man who'd literally restarted my heart. "Ido." The kiss was soft. Not desperate or performative. Just two people who'd found each other in the second half of life, promising to be gentle with each other's damage. The reception was simple. Dinner. Dancing. Sarah gave a toast that made everyone cry when she said, "I haven't seen my father this happy in a decade. Thank you, Tina, for giving him back his smile." Emma hugged me in the bathroom later. "I think he's good, Mom. I think he's really good." "Me too, baby. Me too." That night, lying in Jack's bed, our bed now, I told him the whole story of Michael. Every painful detail. And he held me until I fell asleep. If you're crying right now, you're not alone. Hit that like button, subscribe for more emotional stories, and comment on second chances if you believe love can happen at any age. Marriage at 60 was different from marriage at 22. We didn't fight about money or whose turn it was to do dishes. We'd both learned that lesson. Already, we fought about deeper things. Vulnerabilities. Old wounds that surfaced unexpectedly. 3 months in, Jack found me crying in the bathroom at 2 a.m. "Tina? What's wrong?" "I had a dream. That you left. That I woke up and you were gone and there was a note on the counter just like Michael." He pulled me into his arms. "I'm not Michael. I'm not leaving. But you need to believe that. Really believe it." "I'm trying." "I know. But baby, you can't punish me for his crimes." He was right. I was carrying Michael's betrayal into this new marriage like a weapon, expecting Jack to hurt me the same way. We started therapy. Both of us. Not couples therapy. Individual therapy to deal with our respective damage. Jack saw a therapist who specialized in divorce recovery. I saw one who worked with abandonment trauma. It helped. Slowly. Painfully. I learned that my fear of abandonment wasn't about Jack. It was about my own belief that I was unlovable. That anyone who knew the real me, 60 years old, scarred, broken, would eventually leave. Jack learned that his guilt about his divorce was making him overcorrect. He was so afraid of repeating his mistakes that he was suffocating us both with reassurance. "We're both works in progress," my therapist said. "That's what makes second chance love so powerful. You're both committed to growing." Sarah noticed the change. "You seem lighter, Dad." "I am. We are. It's hard work, but it's worth it." Marcus asked me about it one Sunday. "Does therapy help?" "Immensely. It's teaching me that I deserve to be loved. Really loved. Not just tolerated." My heart acted up again in June. Minor arrhythmia. Stress-induced, Jack said. Nothing life-threatening. But terrifying nonetheless. Because it reminded me how fragile everything was. Jack drove me to the hospital himself. Held my hand during the EKG. Stayed with me through every test, even though technically he shouldn't have. Conflict of interest, his colleagues said. He didn't care. "You're my wife first," he told them. "My patient second." They stabilized me. Adjusted my medications. Send me home with instructions to reduce stress. And increase rest. Sarah showed up the next day with groceries and meal prep. I took the week off. "I'm staying with you guys." "Sarah, you don't have to." "Yes, I do. Because you're family now. And the family takes care of each other." She meant it. She cooked. Organized medications. Ran errands. Worked from Jack's home. Office between tasks. And late one night, sitting on the couch while Jack slept, she said the thing that changed everything. I was so angry when Mom left. Not just at her. At Dad. I blamed him for not being enough. For working too much. For not fighting harder. That's normal, Sarah. But it wasn't his fault. It was hers. She chose to leave. She chose the easy way out instead of doing the hard work of staying. And I punished Dad for her choices. He doesn't hold it against you. I know. But I hold it against myself. Because I wasted years being angry at the wrong person. And then you came along, and I almost did it again. Almost pushed you away because I was afraid of Dad getting hurt again. What changed? I watched how he looked at you. Like you're the answer to every question he's ever asked. And I realized this is what love should look like. This is what Mom never gave him. Emma called me in July with news that shattered my world. Mom, I'm getting divorced. My daughter. My firstborn. 34 years old and ending her 7-year marriage. What happened? He cheated. Classic story. His coworker. Same as Grandpa did to you, same as. She broke down crying. Why does this keep happening in our family? Why can't we keep people? I flew to Seattle the next morning. Jack drove me to the airport, kissed me goodbye, and promised to handle everything at home. Emma was destroyed. Not just by the infidelity, but by the pattern. Her father had abandoned us. Now her husband was following the same script. I'm cursed, she sobbed in my arms. We're all cursed. You, me, probably Sarah too. Eventually. No, I said firmly. You are not cursed. Your father made a choice. Your husband made a choice. Those are their failures, Emma. Not yours. But what if I'm unlovable? What if there's something wrong with me? I recognized those words because I'd said them myself. For 23 years I'd believed I was the problem. Listen to me. You are not unlovable. You are not too much or not enough. You are exactly right. And the men who couldn't see that? That's their blindness. Not your fault. How did you survive it, Mom? I didn't. Not for a long time. I just existed. But then I met Jack. And he showed me that good men exist. Men who stay. Men who choose you every day. Emma wiped her eyes. Tell me about him. Tell me everything. So I did. Told her about my heart surgery. About Jack's steady hands and gentle voice. About Sunday dinners and Sarah's slow acceptance and Marcus's quiet kindness. You deserve that too, I told her. Someone who chooses you. Always. I stayed in Seattle for 3 weeks helping Emma. Jack called every night. Texted every morning. Sent flowers to Emma's apartment with a card that said, "You're stronger than you know. Love, Jack." Your husband is pretty great, Emma admitted. He is. Does he ever make you doubt? Ever make you feel like you're not enough? Never. He's so consistent it's almost boring. But boring feels safe after chaos. Emma laughed through tears. I want to be bored. I want someone who comes home when they say they will, and means it when they say forever. You'll find it. When you're ready. Did you think you'd find it again? At 60? Honestly? No. I thought my chance was gone. I thought love was for younger people who hadn't been destroyed yet. What changed? My heart literally stopped beating. And when Jack brought me back, I realized I'd already wasted 23 years being afraid. I wasn't going to waste whatever time I had left. We sat in silence. Mother and daughter. Both nursing betrayals. Both are learning to trust again. When I flew home, Jack was waiting at the airport with flowers and tears in his eyes. I missed you so much, he said, holding me tight. I missed you too. Thank you for letting me go. For understanding. She's your daughter. Of course you went. That's what love is. Supporting each other's people. That night, lying in bed, I realized something profound. Jack hadn't just married me. He'd married my damage, my history, my complicated adult children. And he'd done it willingly. Gladly. I love you. I whispered in the dark. I love you more. Impossible. Want to bet? We were 62 and 61, giggling like teenagers, and I'd never been happier in my entire life. A year after our wedding, we had a family gathering. All of us. Sarah and her new boyfriend. a kind accountant she'd met through work. Marcus and his longtime girlfriend who we all adored. Emma, visiting from Seattle, stronger now, healing. David and Nathan with their wives and children. Jack's backyard. Long tables. String lights. Food everyone brought. Kids running around. Adults. Laughing. Look at this, Jack whispered, his arm around my waist. Look what we built. It wasn't just a marriage. It was a family. Blended and complicated and beautiful. Sarah stood to give a toast. A year ago, I was terrified of my dad remarrying. I thought no one could be good enough. I thought Tina would hurt him. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. I was wrong. You didn't just marry my father. You loved him back to life. You showed all of us what real partnership looks like. And you made space for us, his kids, your kids, without expecting us to pretend our histories don't exist. Marcus added, you both taught us that it's never too late. That love doesn't expire. That second chance is real. Emma stood then. My mom showed me that betrayal doesn't have to define you. That you can survive the worst thing and still find joy. Still find someone who chooses you. Every single day. We all raised our glasses. To second chances. To families built from broken pieces. To love that doesn't quit. That night, as Jack and I cleaned up together, I thought about 60-year-old Tina lying in that hospital bed, terrified and alone. If I could tell her anything, it would be this. Your heart will stop, but it will start again. And when it does, someone will be there to hold it carefully, to choose you, to stay. And that makes all the difference. If this story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to my 10 p.m. stories for more real, raw, emotional storytelling. Share this with someone who needs to hear that it's never too late for love. And comment below. Have you ever gotten a second chance? I read every single comment. You're not alone. See you at 10 p.m. Some stories end with heartbreak. This one ends with hope. Because at 60, Tina learned what 23-year-olds never knew. Real love doesn't quit. It shows up. It stays. It chooses. You, scars and all. Tomorrow night, another story. Another truth. Another 10 p.m. confession. Don't miss it.